If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 2003 indie drama Pieces of April, starring Katie Holmes, Patricia Clarkson, Oliver Platt, Derek Luke, Alison Pill, and Sean Hayes, directed by Peter Hedges. This is a film that, when it first came out, I barely heard anything about. This was a very low-budget film. It was made for literally $300,000. So, in all honesty, I heard very little about this film. But as time went on, a lot of people that I talk to that talk to me about movies that aren't into the movies I'm into talk about how good this movie is. And these are people that are, to be honest, the people that I've talked to about this aren't people that are into these types of movies. That's the thing that I think surprised me about this movie and kept it in my head that maybe I should check this out. And I'm talking about people who are into, like, horror, and I mean, like, disgusting horror, like disturbing horror, or, like, tough movies, or dark movies, stuff like that. Those type of people would then also say, actually, this movie is very good. I actually really like this movie. Yeah, I guess I thought because those people like this movie, it had to be pretty dark and twisted and screwed up, but it's not, actually, and I was very surprised by that. And I probably should have read more about that before I just dismissed it offhand, so that was on me. But when this popped up as a Thanksgiving movie, I was like, okay, you know what? I've heard good things. I'll check it out. So let's get into the review. Let's get into the review of Pieces of April, directed by Peter Hedges. So before we get to the review, let's go through the plot. April Burns, played by Katie Holmes, is the daughter of Joy, played by Patricia Clarkson, and Jim, played by Oliver Platt. April is deciding this year to have Thanksgiving dinner at her place and invite her family when she discovers that her mother is dying of cancer. And this movie is basically that. It's her preparing for that dinner and for her family to come. But I think the main dynamic of this is that April is basically an outcast of her family, a black sheep, someone that the family pretty much shuns and wants nothing to do with. But the mother is insisting on doing this, even though their relationship between the mother and the daughter is incredibly fraught. So this movie is basically about the preparation of both the family and April for this dinner. So let me get to my 3 points of Pieces of April. And my first point is the power of unspoken forgiveness. So the thing that it becomes apparent in this movie when you watch it is that both parties, in their own way, are struggling to process forgiveness. April is having a hard time processing the forgiveness of how her mother treated her and how her family treats her, but she's powering through it for this one dinner that she feels like she has to do before her mother passes on. And on the other side is the mother, Joy, played by Patricia Clarkson, who, despite not being a happy person, not only from just like because she's dying, but because it sounds like she had a hard life herself, dealing with not only something from her life, but also with dealing with April. She's having a hard time processing that forgiveness as well. And the film actually does this really well, where it doesn't outright say that these characters want to forgive the other person or even forgive themselves. But what they want to show is that these people are leading to that path. This is the only way they have that chance to do it. Even when certain people in the family are saying, why bother, this is pointless, specifically Alison Pill's character, both struggle to that end point. Now, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I think that this film really shows how different people, even though deep down they don't want to show that forgiveness and contriteness, that they do strive for that deep down, but in their own way and in their own path to do so. And I think this film does a great job of showing this. My second point is a darkly comic fable of a broken family. Yeah, this family is messed up in a number of ways. First off, the mother is dying. She's dying of cancer. But also because how the mother is, families surrounding her, the father and the two kids, they react solely on her to make her happy. Thus, it becomes a constant feedback loop of how they feel about April. But then you start learning in certain instances that what happened with April and her being shunned by her family isn't exactly unearned. She actually did some messed up stuff as well that you learn throughout the entire film. But what makes this interesting is how comic this film is. April goes through a lot in this film that is distressing and can be deemed depressing at times as well, but it's done in such a darkly comic tone that it's easier to swallow at certain points. But I think in the best circumstance, it's actually Joy, played by Patricia Clarkson, who got an Academy Award nomination for this role, which she definitely deserved in this. She was able to take such an unlikable character and still make her comedic and funny and easy to deal with as the time went on. Yes, she is a bitter, miserable woman, for good reasons and for not good reasons. But because of that and how Patricia Clarkson portrays her, it's funny, she still ends up being someone you would want to root for to improve and to get what she wants. And it was actually kind of startling to realize that. The thing also that I liked about this when it came to the family dynamics of this film is that deep down, even though there are louder ones that think this was a bad idea, there are ones that were too positive, saying, oh no, it's going to be great. I definitely really liked how the family dynamic and the family itself was written, along with April and what she was going through. I kind of wish there was more on Bobby, to be absolutely honest, but that's kind of neither here nor there. He was kind of a forgotten character throughout the film. But other than that, I think it's a darkly comic fable that I think if you want to watch a holiday movie, but you don't want it to be overly sappy, then this is definitely something I would give it a shot. And the third point I want to get is it is a Thanksgiving uplifting tragedy. There was a review that I read on the movie $1 Million Baby that I thought that I would never hear again from another movie, and that is called The Uplifting Tragedy. I'm not going to get into spoilers of what happened in $1 Million Baby, but it's a film that, despite it being a something of a tragedy, there is still something in it that makes you feel warm and makes you feel hopeful. And Pieces of April is a lot like that as well. Pieces of April is a film where, despite these people are miserable for good and bad reasons, despite them being not happy, despite them not being fulfilled in their life, they still find a way to try to come together. They still find a way to coexist. Even though there is so much stuff between them that it might be hard to have that loving relationship, there is still love there. And I think this film does a great job of showing that. And it's one of its better strengths of this film that I was not expecting, especially at the end. I will say this, though. When I got done with the movie, I was like, this is a good movie. This is a good movie. But I don't do my review until 24 hours later. I usually wait a little while until I start writing or I start processing what I think of the movie. And the more I thought about the film, the more I enjoyed it and I got more out of it. It's one of those movies that maybe when you're watching it, you'll think it's good, but then when you process it, you realize the depths that are in this movie that is actually very good. And this is especially from a film that is not even 90 minutes long. It's about 80 minutes long. Like, this is definitely a film that I think does a lot right. Okay, so who do I recommend this for? You like movies about family with a dark tinge. Like I said in my second point, it is a darkly comic movie. Some of the characters are utterly unlikable or utterly insufferable, but somehow the film makes it comedic enough or them likable enough to sit through. And I definitely enjoyed the darkly comic tones of this movie. Who else do I recommend this for? You like movies with a grungy vibe. I will say this. The movie was made for $300,000, and it looks dark. It looks grungy. It really looks cheap. I guess the best way to say it is it looks cheap. It has a very grainy texture to it that you would think is more of a film that you would have a very dark, brooding, very disturbing kind of feel to it. But that's not what this film is. But if you look at it like on a trailer or you see a scene of it, it looks dirty. And I think that's purposeful. It's a purposeful thing that they're trying to go for, and it works for this movie. And the third that I recommend this for is if you are interested in family dynamics. This film does a great job in showing how family dynamics break apart relationships, but can also mend them in certain aspects. It may not fully mend itself. I do not think in this film that this family lives happily ever after afterwards. I think they go their separate ways. I think that the feelings that they have for each other stay, but I think the way the dynamics work, it just shows a greater depth than I think most of these movies set around this holiday really show. A lot of films that deal with Thanksgiving and family holidays, they go for like quirky, weird, oh, that's the eccentric uncle and that's the loud aunt and stuff like that. They do it for comedic effect more than anything else, but this actually goes into a deeper dynamic that I actually really liked in this. Who would not recommend this for? You like your movies neat and clean. Like I said, this is a grungy, dirty film. A lot of the places that you see in the film are dilapidated. They don't look well kept. The main character lives in the ghetto, essentially, is what I would say as well, or in a rundown part of town. If you want your films based on holidays to be neat, clean, and enjoyable, yeah, this ain't for you. And the other I would not recommend this for is if you wanted every character likable, that's not happening. That's not happening. I would even say in some aspects, April is not likable in this film. I think there are some aspects that every character in this film is just not likable. If you need somebody to like with this type of film, I think you're going to have a hard time with this. Even though I actually like both April and Joy in this film, but I can also see where some people would look at that and go, these people are miserable. Why would I want to even watch this? So if that's how you feel, avoid. Overall, I recommend this film. I thought this was a very good film. I'm actually kind of surprised how much I like this film. When the film ended, I thought this was a good movie. This was definitely a good movie. But as time went on and I started really piecing together themes and the way the characters are in this film, it is a much deeper film than I gave it credit for after I watched it. So I am definitely going to recommend Pieces of April. I wish I watched this sooner, to be absolutely honest with you. So definitely recommend Pieces of April. Check it out if you have not seen it. It's on Tubi, unfortunately, so I had to watch this with commercials. So something I am not happy with. I won't get into it, but yeah, if you want to watch it on Tubi. It's actually very good. Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. Thank you for listening to this review. If you want to know what we're reviewing in the next couple of days, you can look on the screen right now to see what's coming up next. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and leave a like on this video. If you want to discuss your opinion on the film or the review itself, please leave a comment. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for listening. I will talk to you next time.